I have a very sort of optimistic nature, so I always think something's good's going to turn up, or exciting.
When you're actually following the oil, as you say, you make a brushstroke one way and that takes you one way. Obviously that's quite dangerous, and it might take you a way that you find you don't like at all. What happens then?
Well, very often that does happen, and just means destroying the canvas.
You actually destroy the canvas?
I do generally, yes.
You don't clean it and reuse it or anything?
I don't, because you can't. You see, I work on the opposite side, the unprimed side of the canvas, and that can't be cleaned. It just soaks right into the texture of the canvas.
Yes. Why do you use, as it were, the wrong side of the canvas?
Well, I was living once down in Monte Carlo, and I'd lost all my money, and I had no canvases left, and so the few I had, I just turned them. And I found that the what's called the wrong side, the unprimed side of the canvas, worked for me very, very much better. And so I've always used it. And it was just by chance that I had no money to buy canvases with.
How does it work better? I mean, what is better about it? Can you tell us?
Yes, it holds. If you make a mark on it, you can rub it out on a prime canvas and take it out. With that, it's there. It's indelibly made.
I believe that sometimes you use a rag a lot on the canvas, you use brushes, scrubbing brushes to scrub on, you actually throw paint sometimes at canvas. Can you talk about the relationship you have with the canvas in that very physical sense? Why is it important to you to sort of battle with it in that way?
Because if you've ever seen somebody painting a wall, or if you ever paint a wall yourself, you will see the first mark that you make, and where the brush makes that mark, it has a vitality. That when you've got the overall thing created, it's lost.
And so you want that first mark, every mark to be that first mark, as it were?
Yes.
What's to be gained by throwing paint literally at a canvas?
Well, that was, I only did in a few paintings. I was sick of the look of them, I just threw a lot of paint on them. And they turned out, well, they turned out, as they did. I quite liked them.
Is there any way that you finish a painting, or do you just leave it?
I know when it's finished. I mean, my instinct tells me when it's finished. I can't do any more to it.
Do you work continuously on the one painting or the triptych, or can you work on something, leave it for 6 months or even a year and come back later, or do you clear what you're doing?
No, practically everything I do, I work very quickly, and I work on them. For instance, the triptychs, I can't. As you can see, in a room like this, I couldn't work on them all together. Yeah. So I just work on them, and they happen to join up.
Yeah.
You see, when I do these paintings, I have had an overall idea of what I want to do, but as I'm always hoping the chance is going to work in my favour, I don't really know. I don't try to read my work. I don't really know what it means. I only know what it means to me formally.
So you're resisting telling a story? I mean, that is not telling a story.
Very, very much so. I don't want to tell a story. I have no story to tell. I like the starkness of the image. I wanted to give me a shock. Now, shock, you could say, is a form of expression. But what expression it is, I don't know. It's a visual shock. It's not a shock about... it's not a shock that you could get from a story. It's just a visual shock.
Would you resist the notion of describing that triptych as 3 portraits?
You could call it 3 portraits if you want to. But I don't think of it in that way.
So what is it that you're presenting when you've finished?
Nothing except what people want to read into it. Nothing.
One of the striking things about your studio and the place you live in are the number of books of photographs, the number of photographs on the wall, the number of photographs generally about the place. Why are you so attracted to photographs?
Well, I've looked at every type of photograph. I mean, of wild animals, of movement, of of every type of photograph. I don't really care what the photographs are, they just interest me. And every so often, certain photographs bring up images. I particularly liked a lot of these photographs they've taken of wild animals. And I suppose there is another side to that too, that the movement of animals is the actual muscular movement probably has something to do with the structure of many things what I would like to do. They are even stronger than the things that Muybridge did on movement of both the human body and of animals. But I find that very often they are less interesting than the things that have been taken, as you said, just as it were a momentary photograph.
Is that because the fact is that is something to do with that specific thing is happening at that specific time and nothing else, and there's something about that instant, inalienable fact that seems to you to be realer than anything else?
Yes, there you put it very clearly. I think that's exactly what it is. That there it is. It is itself, and it's nothing else.
And is there a sense in which you want your paintings to have a similar?
Certainly. I would like
impact.
to have them. I would like my paintings to have the same immediate effect that you see of this photograph of this animal after the kill.
You referred to Muybridge, and you've taken a great interest in his work. Of course, he experimented with taking photographs of movement almost 100 years ago now, didn't he? And so
yes.
We saw movement in a different way, frame by frame. What is his attraction to you? What do you get from Muybridge?
The interest in Muybridge was what was the movement, but he also did people who were deformed and had all forms of deformity, which were interesting in themselves.
Yes. But isn't there something in the Muybridge strips? You do see what appears to be a distorted set of bodies. Is that something that sets you off, do you think?
I think it is. You will find it in wrestling or boxing, anything I look at. I just like the movement and watch the movement of the body. Every possible suggestion can come up from any type of photographs, pornographic photographs, anything you like. All those things can be fascinating. You can see all kinds of interesting and exciting things that you could perhaps use.
You were very actually taken at one stage with X-ray photographs, and some photographer had done.
Well, I had a book on
right.
on positioning in radiography,
That's right.
which was, and there were very, very interesting things in that. And but it isn't. You see, for me, these things are just these things that are spread around the table are just like like what is called perhaps more conventional. It's called having a model or subject matter. These are my models and my subject matter.